Sleeping Freshmen Never Lie. Chapter 11. Page 84. Our homeroom teachers passed out the paper Tuesday morning. As I flipped it open, I discovered Mouth had a book review on page 2 of Revenge of the Mutant Zombies, a Bucky Wingerton adventure. He gave it 5 stars. I almost tossed out the paper when I saw that. Bucky Wingerton books are this cheap series. They churn out a book or 2 each month. I read one last year just out of curiosity. It was awful. I doubt there's even a real author. I bet they put the books together with some sort of kit program. At least nobody was going to pay attention to Mouth's review. My article was the next to last page. I read the whole thing, which was kind of stupid, I guess, and wrote it. But it felt different reading it in the paper. Julia's guest column was in the middle. She'd written about how high school was a great place to make new and interesting friends. She didn't mention anything about long-lost kindergarten pals. Mr. Franken nodded at me when I walked into English and said, "Good job." Nobody else mentioned my article in any of my classes. I guess mainly because almost nobody knew who I was. I saw Kyle pick the paper up in study hall to look at the cartoons. I wanted to show him my article, but I felt weird about pointing it out. That would be like bragging. Patrick had the paper with him at lunch. "Not bad," he said when I sat down. "Thanks." I waited for him to say more, but I guess literary criticism wasn't Patrick's favorite subject. Unfortunately, I quickly discovered someone else who'd read it. Vernon Dross, the varsity quarterback. His loud complaints rumbled at us from the jock table. "This football stuff sucks," he shouted, tossing down the paper. "It doesn't make any sense." Great. My writing gets ripped apart by a guy who moves his lips when he reads a stop sign. Vernon turned to the kid next to him. "How come he didn't mention my name?" The kid shrugged, which isn't the best gesture for someone to make when he doesn't have a neck. From behind, it looked like his head was being swallowed by his shoulders. "I'm the quarterback," Vernon said. "He's supposed to write about me." He jabbed a finger at the paper. "Anybody know this idiot?" I felt my whole body vanish into a shrug. They all shook their heads, doing a great imitation of an earthquake at a bobblehead convention. At least my lunch wouldn't be interrupted, or my anatomy rearranged, by an angry quarterback. The team didn't know me, and I wasn't going to do anything to change that. I brought the paper home, but didn't show it to Mom and Dad. I was worried that the whole thing with the Tom Swifties was sort of stupid. I'd wait to show them my next article. Bobby was on his way out to work. He pulled the 4 to midnight shift at the diner, so I didn't show the article to him either. Mom was planning to cook lasagna for dinner, but she got this wine for tacos, so Dad and I made a food run. "School going okay?" he asked as we left the house. "Yeah, just fine." "How's work?" "Fine." I looked out the side window for a while, watching the curbs and the phone poles fly past. "This is what your mom does best," Dad said. "What? Gets cravings?" "No, being a mom. She's just so good at it. You should see her with babies." "I'm pretty sure I will." "Oh yeah, right. But it's like she has a magic touch. Babies just melt in her hands." "We should be so lucky." "What?" "Just kidding. What about you? How are you with babies?" "I managed not to drop either of you." "Thanks." September 28th. Congratulate me, Smelly. I made it through my first month of high school. No broken bones, no disasters. On the other hand, no hot dates or leaps in popularity either. I'm pretty sure I carried my middle school status with me. Most of us don't do that. no matter how much we'd like to change, except Julia and a few other girls who perform similar metamorphic stunts. Did you spot the vocabulary word? If you thought I said metamorphic, take another look. Today, Mr. Franke introduced writing. That's where the writer sort of vomits contents of his mind onto the page, just letting whatever comes flow out. Go pros and the cons, and all the twisty little pretzel bends of each thought, untaught in the belief that anyone else on the planet would want to read the spewings, despite the fact that the writer didn't plan it, but just kept going like Battery Bunny, banging a drum like the drum I wanted when I was 5, but I got a toy clarinet instead, which broke when I tried to use it to pry up a rock in the backyard next to the apple tree so I could bury my hurt feelings. Don't feel bad if you skim that last sentence. I sure wouldn't read it. I already spend too much time with my streaming consciousness. Mr. Franke didn't talk too much about the topic. You'll get a fair dose of it in college if you forget to duck, he said. For now, we'll stick with more accessible literature. Speaking of ducking, my teachers screwed up big time. None of them gave out any homework. I can relax and enjoy the weekend. Sleep late, catch a movie with the guys, oversleep, shoot some hoops, get some sleep. All I have to do tonight is cover the game. I might even go hang around the garage tomorrow. Dad and Bobby are out now, grinding some sort of cylinder or widget or gasket. Or perhaps it's a brisket. I saw 3 kids in the halls carrying Revenge of the Mutant Zombies. I'm definitely going to strangle Mouth. The team got clobbered again. I paid special attention to Vernon, which was like being forced to watch a very bad movie. I needed to mention him a lot in my next story. It wouldn't be easy. He was one of the main reasons why the team stank. At the end of the first quarter, Kyle said, "This really rots." I glanced over at Patrick. "Aren't you even going to make it to halftime? Are you?" He shrugged. "I'll stay if you want me to," I said. "No reason all 3 of us should be miserable." They split. I wished I'd left early too, especially when I saw Julia and Kelly walk over to the players' bench and hang out there after the game. Julia spent a lot of time talking with Vernon. I never would have guessed he could hold a conversation. It killed me to see her hovering near him. She was so wonderful and smart. Maybe she was studying him for a science project or something. I sure hope this wasn't her idea of making new and interesting friends. When I got home, I went right to work. I didn't want to do more Tom Swifties. That would get old. As I thought about the writing I'd been doing recently, I got an idea. Amazingly enough, the second article rolled out as easily as the first. Once again, I figured I'd sleep late. Obviously, I was slow to learn new lessons. This time, it wasn't thumping that woke me. It was the gentle whisper of a power sander. Mom, dressed in coveralls with a mask over her nose and mouth, was repainting the spare room, or the nursery, or whatever the heck it was going to be. "What do you think?" Dad asked when I peeked in from the hall. He patted a stack of decals, ducks, bunnies, squirrels, and other lovable critters. But at least, from what I could see, there wouldn't be any poo on the wall. At least, not yet. I stared at the plastic wildlife for a moment. "It's nice," I lied as I left the room. I had a sudden urge to call Uncle Jack and ask him to take me hunting. September 29th. Here's a fact for you. Squirrels are rodents. So are rats. Check out your walls before you go to sleep. Rodents all over. Just figured you'd want to know. But don't worry, they aren't real. At least, not while the lights are on. Who knows what happens in the dark? And as for the flesh-eating ducks, you probably don't even want to hear about them. Check out how it starts. Dear Diary, today I watched quarterback Vernon Dross and the rest of the Zenger Panthers battle against the Hoover Hawks. I mentioned Vernon 9 times, which should keep him happy. Since guys don't write diaries, I signed it at the end with a made-up girl's name just for fun. The one I came up with was Emma Niekamp. I know, it looks kind of fake, but I picked it for a reason. See if you can figure out why. I'll give you a chance to think about it. I didn't show it to Mom or Dad. They'd probably think the kids in the school are reading Revenge of the Mutant Zombies. I hate Mouth. Strangling is too good for him. Sunday morning I heard a crash from downstairs. I figure it was some new remodeling project. Maybe they were installing an indoor waiting toddlers. Relax, everything's okay. It was Mom's voice. She didn't sound okay. I went down. The coat rack. Mom and Dad were hurrying for the garage, jackets in hand. What's wrong? Nothing, Mom said, but her face was really pale. Dad looked like he'd thrown on his clothes real fast. I'll call and let you know what's going on, he said. A moment later, they were flying down the street in the Subaru. Oh, man. I went up to Bobby's room, knocked on his door. He didn't answer, so I went in. Wake up, I said. He pulled the pillow over his head. Come on, get up. I pushed him on the shoulder. Go. This is serious. What? The muffled voice came from under the pillow. I told him about Mom. When I was done, he sat up, shook his head, and said, I knew this was a bad idea. Weird, like when you see a cat owner petting a dog. I went downstairs and straightened up the coat rack, then waited by the phone. I could come down so we could talk. But he didn't. After a while, when I wandered back upstairs, I saw him stuffing clothes in a duffel bag. What are you doing? I can't stand this place right now. You're leaving? I don't need all this stress. I've got too much stuff to deal with already. He zipped up the bag, then put his guitar in his case. Got any money? Some. Can I borrow it? The last thing I wanted to do was help him leave. But I figured he'd go no matter what. He took off for the bus station. About 40 minutes later, Dad called. Everything's fine, he said. Mom's okay. Yeah, we saw the doctor. We'll be home in a little bit. Good. How are you doing? I'm all right. I didn't tell him anything else. He'd find out soon enough. I still couldn't believe Bobby had split. He was acting like he was the one whose life was being turned upside down by this. But he was already almost grown up and all. I was the one who had to deal with everything. September 30th. No more screwing around, okay? Whatever it was you did to send Mom to the doctor, just cut it out. None of us needs that kind of excitement around here. So stop causing trouble. You'll get your chance later. On top of everything else, Mom got upset about Bobby's one thing. There's way too much tension around here. Here's a new word for you. Flux. It means change. Right now, everything is... You know what? Flux sucks.